When working with T-spline bodies, the amount of detail you can have in the body is directly related to the number of faces the body has. To show this, I have a mouse mesh body that I imported into Fusion, and 3 T-spline bodies with differing numbers of faces that I molded around it. In the blue body with the fewest faces, you can see the general shape of the mouse, but a lot of the edge detail and the ridge through the center don't come across well. In the red body with the most faces, both the side detail and center ridge are very apparent, but making any changes with this many faces could be time-consuming. The yellow model with an intermediate number of faces might then be a good compromise. The edge and ridge detail are still coming across, though not as sharply, and the smaller number of faces than on the red body makes it easier to work with. Balancing the amount of detail against working time, then, is the key to working efficiently with T-splines. In practice, you'll rarely start with the number of faces in the red body, since it would simply be too time-consuming to manipulate that many faces. Instead, the general rule of thumb when working with T-spline bodies is to use the fewest number of faces necessary to get a shape, then adding more faces where detail is necessary. This means that in most cases, your overall progress on a design will look more like a transition between the blue, yellow, and red bodies rather than simply starting with one and working with only those faces throughout the sculpting process. To show how this workflow might look, I'll bring up a design that only is a simple T-spline box with 4 faces on each side. In order to manipulate the number and shape of the faces, there are a variety of modify commands available to you while working in the sculpting environment. For example, if your design calls for you to divide the top side faces, you can enable the Insert Edge command. Double-click one of the edge loops of those faces and adjust where you want to divide the faces. If only a single face needs to be divided, you can use the same Insert Edge command, but select only a single edge to divide a face next to it. For areas where you'll need to add a lot of detail, and therefore want to add a group of faces quickly, the Subdivide command can be used on selected faces to divide them into a specific number of equally spaced faces. Finally, the Insert Point command can be used to divide faces into custom shapes by selecting points on adjacent edges to create a new edge between. Just like dividing up faces, reducing the number of faces by reducing the number of edges or vertices can be done using a few commands. But the simplest is to simply select an edge that you no longer want to bind to a face, and using either the Delete command or pressing the Delete key on your keyboard. By using the Modify commands, you have a number of ways to divide up the faces of a body for either more detail or easier manipulation. While there are no specific rules for when to increase or decrease the faces in an area, if you start simple and only add faces to the places you want more detail, your body should stay easily manageable.